discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another episode of the PowerCat Questions podcast. As we go through our first week without basketball midweek, it's kind of strange, a little bit quiet around K-State Athletics this week. It's COVID celebration week, Zach.
What does that mean?
First of all, Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Ron Gilbert here from the Go PowerCat home studio in Man Cave. It's COVID celebration week in which we honor all the games that were missed because of COVID or ice storms and hold them all in 1 week. Well, not all of them. They can't get them all in. Baylor took half the season off, but some teams are playing 3 games a week. Kansas finished its Big 12 season unscathed. K-State has one to make up, and that will take place Saturday at Bramlage Coliseum. The feckless, I love that word. I'm not even sure what the full definition of feckless is.
I've never heard that word in my life.
Let's look that up. Let's just pull that up real quick. The feckless Iowa State Cyclones come to town. Let me make sure this is right. Oh, hold on. Lacking initiative or strength of character, irresponsible. I'm not sure that's quite right.
Lacking character?
Yeah, I don't mean to question their character. I mean, tornado birds can be upstanding citizens without being able to win a basketball game. But I'll use it anyhow. Feckless Iowa State comes to Bramlage to make up the game. And I think we should hold a parade on Saturday because Kansas and Kansas State will have completed their Big 12 schedule. Complete all 18 games. Go Sunflower State. We're sponsored by the Fridge. Get into the Fridge. It's a beautiful week. You know what that means? It's a beautiful week to go sit in a lawn chair in the backyard, no friends around because of COVID, and just drink some beer. I don't get into the hard stuff sitting in the backyard. It's just kind of weird, but you can buy that for later at the Fridge. Get into Tanner's. They celebrated Blue Sky Tornado Day yesterday as all the alerts went off. Scared the crap out of me. I looked out the window and go, what?
Did you not watch the news? Like, did you not know it was coming? I knew it was coming.
No.
I saw the alert on my phone at 10 a.m. I'm like, that's, I'm like, I read it and I was like, they probably could have used some different language there, but I knew it wasn't real.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you watched the news, but they're not reaching my generation by staying off social media with this stuff. If they had sent me a TikTok, I would have seen it. Oh, get into Tanner's and the High-Low, our segment sponsors, great businesses in Aggieville. And if you haven't heard, Manhattan is open for business. You still got to wear your face mask, but you're ugly anyhow. Get into Aggieville bars and touch people with your shoulders, just like old times. God, I miss overcrowded bars. Strange people spilling drinks on me.
Sticky floors.
Sticky floors. But I will be at Tanner's for the NCAA tournament. I'm just going to put it out there, folks. I'm making the prediction right now here on the PowerCat podcast. K-State will not be included in the NCAA tournament this year.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I'm out there on it. Because technically, even if they don't win against Iowa State on Saturday, K-State is a 10-game winning streak after that away from a national championship. Well, maybe 11.
Yeah, it might be 11.
I don't think a conference champion can be put into the first 4. Maybe?
Well, they could be one of the automatic bid 16 seeds.
Yeah.
That would be incredible. I bet you winning the Big 12 tournament would raise them up enough where they wouldn't be a 16.
What was Georgia when they pulled off their giant tournament upset? Like a 13 or 14 seed?
I don't know.
They were pretty low. I think they were 14. That's probably where K-State would be.
Watch out. Here come the Cats. The national championship is still within their grasp. Let's get to questions from Wabash Station.
First question's from K-Ned. How can a college basketball team not have any ball handlers and passers? Did that comment set off another historical mark as the worst Bruce excuse ever?
Gills, give me your thoughts on when Bruce said that.
I mean, I don't want to say he's wrong, but Mike McGurl can handle the ball, and Williams and Pat can pass. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong, but I don't know if I totally agree with his comment itself. But like you said on your daily deliveries and stuff, it's not, he should have recruited all these guys a year ago.
Zach?
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything?
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I agree with what Ryan said.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan Gilbert.
How do you not have guys that can dribble, pass, and shoot? What exactly is on your recruiting checklist where you're skipping over dribble, pass, and shoot as something that should be a baseline? Jay Heidrich says it all the time. Play hard chart. Play hard should be a given. Playing hard, dribbling, passing, shooting, all things that should probably be included with an offer. If you can't do those things, you shouldn't get a scholarship offer. During the process of the COVID shutdown, when you came back, and Bruce has made it clear they didn't have enough guys to practice defense. They never had 10 guys for a long period of time. They're having to use managers, coaches, trainers, anyone to fill spots, and they weren't getting good reps running offense or defense because, frankly, the other side of the ball was just really incompetent. So I wonder, why did you spend time doing that if you realized at the time it wasn't useful? I mean, I get it. Here's basically what we do. Let's do this. Now, all you guys that are going to be in the lineup that can't dribble with your left hand, we're going to work on that today. I mean, you could work on ball skills with 2 guys. You don't need 10. 2 guys can cover each other, dribbling, pass it to each other, put a manager or trainer out there for a pick. They can work on getting over the pick while using the pick. All of these basic basketball fundamentals can be worked on with a nominal number of players. I accept you can't establish your defense because you don't have enough guys and enough good reps in practice. I get it. COVID has had an impact on a young team. But these things, first of all, they should be able to do these things when they come to school. Shame on you, AAU basketball, that you don't teach some fundamentals. You would think those coaches would realize, hey, I know we need to score a bunch of points and run up and down in AAU, but if we can dribble and pass and shoot better, we'll be a better team. They don't seem to work on that. I'm frustrated by it all. And again, this is a Bruce Weber open mouth comment. Like, why would you say that about your own team? Even if it's true, I'm sickened by it. You have recruited. You picked the pieces, and you can't dribble, pass, and shoot. Raw. Go team.
Next question is from El Camino Cat. Are our shooting woes more of a result of not recruiting quality shooters, flaws in the system, or some other factor?
Can we start with Kazupke?
Oh, my God.
You said you were going to ask a question, but you never did, and nobody else did, so.
Let's go.
What's your defense on Kazupke, Zach? That's my question.
He played awful on Saturday.
Saturday?
Terrible. Hey.
It's been going on for a few games.
There's been one game since my defense of him.
Okay,
let's assess the situation since then. As I said in our group text, I mean, he was getting eaten alive by West Virginia, which isn't even really press Virginia. Just imagine if they were running the press on him. You know, he was throwing the ball away. He was completely out of position. And I'll still defend Kazupke just because of the injury, how late he came in. I'll still defend that.
I get it.
And that's fair. But my other side to this is, if that's the best you've got, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. If that is the quality of basketball that K-State is able to put out right now in the Big 12, and you have Luke Kazupke, who hasn't played all season, you know, he's played for a month, and he's a freshman, and you're throwing him out there when you've had other guys that are sitting on the bench below him that have played since November, what are you doing? That's pretty damning.
He was recruited as a shooter, Gills. I mean, that was without the shooting part of his resume. He's not a Division I or Power 6 player. That's what got him the scholarship. And Shooting a basketball to a shooter isn't a skill you lose because you haven't played much in the last few months. You get out on the court, you get going again. It's like you don't have to relearn to ride the bike. If you haven't ridden all winter, you don't have to teach yourself again in the spring. Shooters shoot. So I understand that he might have some rust on him and not really understand where he should be on defense and offense and all that. But when you catch the ball in the corner at 21 feet, it's the same ball you played with in high school. It's the same rim you shot into in high school. And you might be backed up just a little bit, but if you're a toe at the line shooter in high school, you shouldn't get a scholarship either, if that's your thing. I mean, if you're a shooter, you should be able to catch the ball at 23 feet and stroke it. And he's missing. I'm beginning to wonder if, Bruce said it. Believe it or not, we shoot in practice and we shoot the ball well. And I've kind of laughed about this through the years, but the man micromanages every possession, yelling at his team. And I almost begin to feel like, well, if they can shoot it well in practice, when you're probably not yelling every little thing that goes through your brain at them, maybe it's you, Bruce. Maybe your team's playing tight because the players on the court feel like we're never doing anything right because coach is always correcting us. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that these guys are this bad offensively. Selton Miguel, I get it. He's not a pure shooter. He's a drive to the basket with his right-hand guy. And that worked at AAU when he was bigger, stronger, jumped higher than most of his opponents. But now that's not true, and he's trying to adjust, and I think he will adjust. Hopefully it'll be at Kansas State. But you don't seem to have a recruiting part of you that looks for instinctive scores. I'm not sure what you're looking for, but Dejuan Gordon isn't an instinctive scorer. He was a better athlete than the guys he was playing against, which says a lot because he was out of Chicago. Nigel Pack is an instinctive scorer. Davion Bradford is, as a big man, but I don't think they recognize that. He's admitted he's surprised by it. I don't understand it. Being able to shoot and score is a pretty basic thing to look for on the recruiting trail. So if you feel like you're getting them, then what are you doing wrong once you get them? Those are the two. Either you're doing it wrong in the recruiting process or in the coaching process. Go. Fix that.
I was watching some old highlights the other day on the NCAA tournament run with McGurl when he was a freshman, and his shot looks a lot different than it did back then. It was more of a straight, it was a smooth stroke. And now McGurl he puts his feet and moves. His feet move apart when he shoots. You guys notice that? So I don't know if it's something that the coaches are trying to adjust and make them do something different, but if it's that or recruiting, it's not working. So it's frustrating.
I agree.
Next question is from Yo Mama. Is Bruce's apparent reluctance to take a grad transfer maybe due to him thinking that it would take too long for them to learn his defense? And Casey Southpaw followed up with, if you were a grad transfer with 1 year to play, particularly a guard, would you come here with the loaded depth chart in the backcourt?
Well, I think the only player to be scared of in the backcourt is Nigel. If you're a true point guard, you might be reluctant. I don't see anyone else out there that would scare off a legitimate upperclassman that can score. I agree with Southpaw on a lot of things, that not particularly this one. I think your mama might be onto something. I mean, I don't think it's really the ability of the player to learn. Bruce's fear to teach them that, to get them in line. I'm not sure. They treat the transfer portal like it's Ebola. It's like, if we go over there, we're going to die. That's how they treat the transfer portal. The fact that they're looking at more high school freshmen, and I did the daily delivery on this, is the most alarming thing I've heard of this season. Think about that.
Yeah.
Of all the crap that's gone on, losing to Fort Hays, setting a record for 45-point loss at Baylor, the ineptitude at times that we've seen on the basketball court, this is the most alarming. Not only because it's not because people are going to transfer. We know that. It's going to happen at every program, folks. I know it's Bruce's MO. I know it's happened a lot at K-State, but this year it's happening. It's going to happen everywhere. I mean, the transfer portal is sexy and kids all think they're going to find something better. It's going to happen to virtually every program. The question is who is going into the transfer portal, not if anyone will. But to think that the solution to improving your roster is going out to sign more players in the spring out of high school? If you know recruiting, if you find a good player in the spring, that can impact you as a freshman, you should be playing the lottery. The best case scenario for the spring is DJ Johnson. They found him when they arrived, and he was good enough to help as a freshman, but he worked his ass off and became a pretty darn good college basketball player. Not great, good. Don't think we appreciate DJ enough for what he developed himself into. That's not going to help you next year. You know what that'll do for you next year? That'll make you young. We're too young. That's why we won 6 games in the Big 12, but we're improving from 3 to 4 to 6. We're young.
It's almost as if he's trying to save his job and saying, hey, we're still young. Wait 2 years from now and we'll be good.
I mean,
I don't get it.
It's clear that Bruce Weber is not a good general manager of this basketball club.
He's basically admitted that by talking about Scott Drew and Chris Beard being good general managers.
Yeah.
And Tom Izzo.
All these guys, it's not hard to go into the transfer portal and find you a guy that can make your team better. Like Fitz says, this isn't just a K-State thing of players entering the transfer portal. Every program, everywhere across the country, has players that leave and go into the transfer portal. Why can't you go and look and find them? Casey Eziagu is the best you can do out of the transfer portal? Are you kidding? There's people out there. Go find them.
I don't get it. I just don't understand. Maybe they're working the portal, but I don't see any signs of it. Not when they're back to offering high school kids.
Yeah.
Those players might be good players. They might be someone that in 2, 3, 4 years, you're damn glad you signed in the spring. That's not what faces this program right now. Hey, if anyone's listening, everyone associated with K-State basketball, apparently except for the people in charge, are sick of the rebuild. We're tired of it. You shouldn't be good every 4th year. That's not how it works. For God's sakes. Can we see a sense of urgency here? Maybe just a little bit of urgency? Fix this.
Next question is from TN Cat. Will Gene Taylor realize that the last week's 2 wins were just false hope of improvement and move forward and replace Bruce Weber with a more innovative and offensive head coach?
Well, I'm not going to set aside the wins as a fluke. They're not a fluke. They won those games. They have improved. You may not want to admit that, but they have improved. Now they're to the point where they should have been earlier. Honestly. I mean, I will accept some COVID excuses. Not for everything, because you are young, not because of COVID, but because of roster management. But it is an improvement, but it's not the definitive improvement. There's got to be more to this mathematical problem facing Gene Taylor than just wins and losses, because he seems fine with this. The wins don't matter because Bruce wasn't in trouble if he'd lost those games, according to what he's saying publicly. So there's got to be something outside of the realm of the crap fest that happens on the court. And that's probably the transfers. I'm telling you, if some of these key players that have come in this 8-man recruiting class decide to get up and leave, then what has this all been about? What are we being patient about? So just be happy that they won games. Don't sit there and think, oh, that'll save Bruce's job. Because I got to tell you, if he lost those games, he'd be in the same predicament with his boss, which is not a predicament at all. He's safe, as far as we can tell. They might ask him to retire so that they can go get a more young, innovative offensive coach. But if he says, no, I want to come back, I like this group, okay, keep coaching.
I
love Gene. Yeah. Gene's a great guy, but you're teetering on a full-on fan revolt. So sit around and have beers with your 7-figure donors. People are pissed that this is going on.
I just think it's ridiculous that a handful, maybe 6, 7 players, probably even less than that, hold the keys to Bruce Weber's job, as you put it. If they leave, I think that's just insane to think that that's the point we've reached with Bruce Weber, is that he's 4 or 5 key transfers from the program this offseason away from just losing his job. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and that's the reality that we're living in.
Gills, I look at this the opposite way. I see Nigel Pack, Davion Bradford, Selton Miguel, maybe Casey Ezeagu. There's something about him I like. I see these guys as reasons to go get a different coach.
Mm-hmm.
This is an opportunity not to win in 3 more years, but maybe next year to be Wichita State. They went through a roster rebuild. They promoted a young, unproven coach. He's a conference coach of the year, right?
Wichita State was so lucky.
I agree.
Good for them. For what happened at the beginning of the season and what they did.
I agree.
Crazy.
But they rebuilt their roster, and they won a lot. They're going to be in the tournament probably.
Mm-hmm. Last question of the first half from El Camino Cat. After this season, Bruce Weber will only have a couple of years remaining on his contract. Where do you think things stand with a contract extension? And if he is not given an extension, how much of an impact do you think his expiring contract and the poor team performance will have on recruiting?
Well, if K-State wins 6 games next year, and because of recruiting, they offer him a contract extension, and it does anything but lowers the buyout. If this is really about an extension for recruiting, when recruits go, oh, you got 4 more years in your contract, Coach, what's your buyout?
How many kids, how many recruits go into a school and think about the contract? I don't think there's very many student athletes that do that.
Zach, you nailed it.
I don't think anybody cares.
This is a talking point perpetuated by agents. This is an alter reality perpetuated by agents. Kids are smart. They know if you've got 4 years on your contract and you suck, you will be fired. Except at Kansas State. But they're smart. They know how this stuff works. They know the lack of fairness in it, that a coach can leave or get fired whenever, and in the past they've been tied to the institution. They know how it works. They're not dumb. This is a reality that agents have created. Congratulations, they're doing their job. But yeah, if you want to live in that reality, it doesn't include a big buyout. Athletic directors too often value the pleasure of their coaches more than the financial solvency of their athletic department. Giving these huge buyouts is great for the coach, makes them happy. They might pretend it's what gets them to sign the deal, but it is fiscally irresponsible of you as the manager of the finances of a business to do so. Start running a business. If you feel like a coach is good enough to have a $5 million buyout, fine. Add another $1 million to their salary. A coach would like that. Oh, instead of 2.5 with a $5 million buyout, you're going to offer me 3.5. Okay, I'll take that. He's not going to leave. You're not going to have to worry about him bolting to another school because they offered him so much money. You're offering that money. And if he does suck, you don't have to pay him. Maybe do that. This is buyout crap. This buyout's crap. Oh, you suck at your job? Oh, here's some money. Oh, you don't want to be here? Okay. Then they're going to have to buy you out. Well, come on, man. This is crap agents have set up. Quit playing the game the agents want you to play. Run your business. I'm fired up today. That's it for the first half of the podcast. We'll be back in the second half. What do we got in the second half, Zach?
It's a mystery.
Oh, it's mystery.
We're a baseball school now.
It's kind of like Gills' love life. We'll be back on the Power Cat Questions podcast.
The Power Cat Podcast will be right back. We now send it back to the Power Cat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Power Cat Questions podcast, brought to you by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Ryan Gilbert, your trio of wildcatters. Sound like we're working in the oil industry. From here at the home studio in Man Cave in Manhattan, Kansas. The dogs are sleeping. We hope you're awake and listening. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's in the High-Low. Make it to Aggieville. The rules are being lifted. In fact, Real Patty's Day is coming up here pretty soon, and I am told it's going to get weird. It's going to get weird in Aggieville. If you haven't heard, they've set aside Fake Patty's Day. The official Aggieville Business Association will no longer be part of Fake Patty's Day. Doesn't mean it's going away. You can still run any.
13th is the unofficial Fake Patty's Day for all the house parties and stuff.
I love how there's an unofficial fake holiday because there used to be an official fake holiday.
It should be the real one. Two negatives make a positive, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's very confusing. Hold on. Yes, the 13th is Aggieville's actual. That's when the road race is. See, people don't understand the origins of Fake Patty's Day. Let's talk about it on this sports podcast. Fake Patty's Day grew from some friends of mine who worked at KSDB back in the day, and they wanted to do a radio promotion. But the actual Patty's Day was falling in that week leading into spring break. I have a dog snoring now. Same dog, first half drinking, second half snoring. Home studio. And whenever they did overlap, whenever the students were around for the real one, they'd go to Aggieville, do weird stuff, and throw up in the street while an organized road race was taking place. So, like runners tend to do, they complained about having to sidestep vomit. I personally think you should view it as an Irish obstacle course, but that's just me. I'm not a runner. I'm Irish. I see it from that standpoint. So these brilliant minds, Drew and Pat, they set up Fake Patty's Day and started having it in Aggieville. No, and bar owner didn't come up with it, even though he tried to claim it. So it was just an organic thing. Then the city wanted the business association to take control of it, and now they would send it the heck with it because basically it sucks now. Right? It was really cool at the start. It was a draw. It was an economic impact draw. A lot of money was spent in Manhattan, whether it's bars or hotels or gas stations or liquor stores. A lot of money came into town, and then the city decided, we don't want that. People are drinking. So anyhow, Aggieville's out of that business in terms of formally, but now they will have the official one, which is still on, and it will be a crap show. Come to Aggieville. Go to Tanner's in the High-Low on March 13th. It's a Saturday, folks.
2 days after my birthday.
2 days after.
It's going to be a long weekend.
That is during the NCAA tournament. It's the first round, isn't it?
It's the first four.
The 13th is still.
That's
going to be Big 12
That's next
championship.
weekend. Yeah, it's Big 12.
Is that next weekend?
Yeah.
Holy crap. That's the Big 12 championship. K-State will be playing in that game, so it's going to be very conflicting for you. The Wildcats will be dueling with the University of Kansas. It's a pretty good team they have in Lawrence, typically. We're talking about basketball. And the two Kansas schools that will have played their entire schedule this season will be rewarded by playing for the championship. And Kansas State will be in the process of a 10-game winning streak to win the national championship. We've covered that in the first half. Welcome back to the podcast. We're going to move on to other topics now. And Gills, are you taking over?
Yes, sir.
Here's Ryan Gilbert.
First question of the second half is from I Like Pickles Cat. When does the Overtime podcast come back?
You know, Zach, I want your input on this. What do you think?
I mean, half of this podcast was overtime.
No doubt. That just felt like it.
Not soon enough.
You want it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's bring it back after basketball's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some
Nonsense?
different questions. I feel like everybody's built up a bank of silly stuff to ask us because we keep answering the same questions about why does basketball suck this week, and we have to make up new answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't do that. I just kind of say the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's quality podcasting right there.
Cut and paste.
Cut and paste. Gills, you've never been on an overtime. Do you know what an overtime is?
Yeah, I was on all the overtimes.
He was here.
Yeah. We did it from like March to, what, September?
August. Where were you last summer, Fitz?
What the hell is happening?
You okay?
Fitz is getting old. He doesn't have any memory.
Huh.
I'm down to bring it back.
Okay, we'll bring it back. There you go. Was that from Pickles?
No, it's from Pickles.
Pickles?
I feel like Pickles has some stuff to ask us.
Well, that was another thing. I think all of you had run out of good questions, and now you've had some time to ponder the stupidity of life. And you've got some more stuff you want to ask. Like I would like to have a whole topic about Brockmire. But I couldn't really put much of Brockmire into the podcast because it's a little bit too salty. Okay, next question.
Next question from Exhausted Nihilist. We're a baseball school now. Change my mind.
Well, this year you're not wrong. As I told someone, if baseball falters, you will be reading about women's tennis at Go Power Cat. We got to have something to cover.
Golf.
Are they good? Women's tennis hasn't been bad so
Actually,
far.
you're right about women's tennis.
The problem with women's tennis is I haven't looked at the roster this year. That's how well plugged in I am to the women's tennis scene.
Wait, are we going to pretend like you've looked at the roster in years past?
Well, I know this about the roster. I've looked at it to know I can't pronounce most of these names because women's tennis does a lot of overseas recruiting. So it may not be like covering Major League Baseball. You have to take a translator to post-game interviews. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited about baseball, and I'll be blunt here for a couple of reasons. One, basketball sucked. Football ended disappointingly, so it's nice, and they're good. They're supposed to be competitive this year. But if you haven't really listened to Pete Hughes, I mean, I just mentioned my Irish nature. This dude is Boston Irish. He's the real freaking deal, and I love him. I think he's awesome. I imagine he cusses really well, but he doesn't do that in interviews. He was one of my favorite sit downs we had for the Power Chat, just because I never met him before that. Everyone else,
Basically, yeah.
And he came in. He didn't realize it was video because I don't know why, but he came in his little Boston Scully hat.
He was dressed nicely, though. It wasn't like he was.
Yeah, but he was wearing his little cabbie hat,
newspaper hat.
Yeah, newspaper boy hat. It was great. It's perfect. But my favorite moment of the Power Chat was when I talked about strip joints to Coach Mitty.
And Wally clipped the gif of it, of his eyes.
Because he knew what I was talking about.
Next question from K-Ned. Should K-State baseball be honoring the 70th anniversary of Earl Woods integrating conference baseball?
Absolutely. Abso-frickin-lutely. That's all I really have to say. Absolutely. I mean, it's a big deal. And let's look at this, again, from a business standpoint. Is it the right thing to do? Yeah. Would it be cool? Yeah. But you can get some national traction out of that You know? I mean, just from, let's be blunt here. You're honoring Tiger Woods' father. That might get mentioned on SportsCenter. And if you're promoting your business, in this case, Kansas State Athletics, that's good. Particularly if it's, baseball, something that you don't typically get any traction on and outside of anywhere, actually, at K-State. So, yeah. I know this is a big thing for K-Ned, and I appreciate him for it, and I want him to keep banging that drum. We suck at this. We have a cool history with integrating the sports before others at Kansas State. And yet we let others define Kansas State by their wrong perceptions. They need to get on this. Get going with this stuff. If you've got stuff planned for the future, say that, but be a little more specific than, we'll do it later, which is basically all they've said so far. Say, hey, we'll be building a really cool monument to all of those student athletes who broke the color barrier. This is important stuff. Even if you want to be jaded and just look at it from publicity and recruiting. It's right to do it, but it's good for those things too. So, yeah, that's my long answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why they haven't done anything. It would have been nice before Tiger's accident, too, had they done it, because maybe he would do something. I don't know.
His schedule's free. Maybe he'll come.
I don't know, what Tiger would do, or, he might say something, but come on.
Tiger, we'll get you a driver. Yeah. Jeez. You won't have to drive.
I mean, you have one of the most famous athlete parents of all time that broke the color barrier, not just at your school, but in the conference. It's insane to me that like you've said, K-State has this amazing history of breaking the color barriers, being diverse, and they don't celebrate it. When now is the time that you should be celebrating it. And even if you want to look at it from a cynical business point of view,
right?
Why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? Nobody cares, which is kind of sad to say. But nobody at K-State cares about the history, because otherwise they would be doing something right now.
I'm going to say it. There's too many people in that athletic department who aren't K-Staters. I'm sorry. They've kind of gotten out of touch with the roots, which is strange because they should be looking at it then dispassionately as business decisions.
Exactly.
I agree. Another question from K-Ned. I pulled the fix line there. Next question's from K-Ned. Has the basketball season beaten down morale to the point it is affecting interest in spring football? Seems very low-key this year.
I don't think it's basketball. I think it's everything. It's COVID.
Yeah.
It's how football ended. It's the fact that it's starting earlier than it did under Bill Snyder.
Yeah. It's crazy that it started today.
So, I mean, you can do one of three things with spring football. This isn't the stuff I've discussed before. You've got a date for spring break, which isn't really a thing this year, right?
One day.
What?
Yeah.
One wellness day. Mental wellness day.
God, I need one of those.
Do you get to take it at will, or do they choose when you
It's
will
a Monday, and it's coming up in a few weeks.
Oh, they're having mental wellness on a Monday?
I think it's a Monday, yeah.
Why wouldn't they have it on a freaking Friday?
A Freaky Friday. So
that you can have mental wellness on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday without having class the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Anyhow, you can have spring football before spring break. So you get it done. Guys go on their own. Or you can wait till after, which was Bill Snyder's preference. In fact, I truly believe they'd move spring break up once so that he could get spring football in. Because the schedule fell where it wasn't going to give him enough time. Or he can straddle it, which I think Les Miles does because he's an idiot. You never want to do that. You never want to say, hey, we're going to practice for a week, and then you're going to go on spring break and get drunk, and then you come back and practice for 2 weeks. It just doesn't work. So, yeah, he's going to get it all in. That starts earlier. So I think that's catching people off guard that it's overlapping into football or into basketball, which is something new. Plus, Chris Kleiman's made my dreams come true. Now, as a journalist, I would like to have spring football game to cover. I know Zach likes it for the video. Remember when you could shoot video? Remember doing that?
Man, I'd do anything to shoot video sitting on a bench like we did 2 years ago.
Wow.
I'd do anything to watch 30 minutes of just them running, like stretching, anything. You don't even have to have a football in sight.
Okay, I'm going to write this down. Zach will do anything. Explanation, underline 3 times. But they're not having a spring game, and I think spring games are dinosaurs that need the meteor to hit. Now, if you're Nebraska and spring football, the spring game is religion, or Alabama, or any school where it's really important because you have nothing else of substance in your life, I'm fine. Keep your spring game. Waste your 15th practice on a public display of things the coach is willing to show the public. I prefer to use that 15 practice on things that the coach thinks the team needs to do to improve, that the public probably shouldn't be seeing, so that opposing coaches see it. So I support Chris Kleiman in it, but it was fun. It was fun when Ron Prince did it. Sorry, I just said that.
What?
That was
Prince did something fun?
2006. That was the best spring game ever.
I can't hate the man. He did spring game right, and he had smoke in the entrance. I'm not particularly crazy about the uniforms, but he tried. You get that cake. You tried.
I want a Ferris wheel in the parking lot again.
They had a carnival in the parking lot for kids.
Wow.
There was 30,000 people at this game.
There was 30,000 people. It was well done. Now, if you're going to do it, you got to do that. Now, maybe they'll get back to that, but Chris Kleiman's in the building stage here where there's a lot of stuff to be taken care of still, particularly coming out of a COVID season with transfers. And so, people are kind of asleep at the wheel. But if you're a subscriber to GoPowerCat.com, I did a story, the 10 storylines to look out for spring football. And it wasn't a definitive list. It was basically all the crap that Mike Goins thought of.
And I added a couple pieces.
But I didn't do those.
Oh.
I mentioned them within the realm of the other 10 storylines.
Bummer.
So, but in that, I listed the media opportunities, which maybe was filler. But it actually is interesting how much information will be coming out of spring football. You know, maybe not the super secret. I've got a friend of an intern who's a manager on the team who tells me stuff that he shouldn't be telling a reporter. Not that kind of stuff. But we will have Chris Kleiman, we'll have players, we'll have coordinators, we'll have all the coaches. We have the strength coach on Friday. We have everyone that you probably want to talk to through the course of spring football on the record, and we'll have all that at Go Power Cat. And we'll have the inside stuff, too. We got to get ourselves a manager. Gills, you got any friends that we could talk into being a manager just for the sole purpose of leaking us information?
I wish.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be right.
Last question of the podcast from TN Cat. As we continue to miss out on football recruits, does Chris Kleiman need to analyze the job Taylor Bratt is doing? I know he's a popular figure inside the complex. I kind of lost my breath there.
You're getting emotional, aren't you?
Wow.
I know, it's such a tough question. And with fans on Twitter, apparently there is a disconnect somewhere in the process. Is it with Taylor? Do we need more bodies in the recruiting staff, or is it the coaches? Is it that the coaches cannot close a deal?
Well, I'm a big fan of accountability. I mean, I don't care who you are, if you're Bruce Weber or Taylor or Gene Taylor or a lot of Taylors. Didn't realize that. Huh. I mean, and myself, everyone should be accountable for the job they do. I mean, that's just the way it should be if you want to be good at things. So, I mean, there has been some issues coming up with the 2022 class and in-state recruits. I mean, that's a fact. So I'm not going to sit here and criticize Taylor because I really like him, and nobody's more passionate about Kansas State than him. But his job is to get recruits, not to collect shoes. Sorry. I mean, the social media stuff is great. It's freaking awesome, but it has to be part of the bigger picture. So I don't know where they're at with that, but recruiting as a whole right now is not where I thought it would be. This was the year that you should be locking down your borders. Your year 3, you're kind of established. You've got the other program is a non-threatening. I mean, it's like a three-legged badger. It's not even a badger. What's a really pathetic woodsy animal? A three-legged squirrel. You're not really threatened by it at all. That's Kansas football. I mean, even a squirrel, if it had 4 legs, could do really incredible things and maybe claw your eye out. But they got 3 legs. They suck. So the point being is that you should own this state. But no, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, other schools keep creeping into your backyard and stealing players. It's got to stop, man. I don't care who's in charge of it.
And it's not like K-State's going out to those other states and poaching. Like it'd be fine if K-State was reciprocating. If Kansas kids are going to Iowa State, they're going to Oklahoma State. That'd be fine if K-State was going into Oklahoma City. They're going into Des Moines and raiding the place. But that's not the case.
Now, I truly believe recruiting's better now than it was in the last 5, maybe 10 years of Bill Snyder. Maybe the old 2.0 thing. It is better. I mean, as I did the depth chart, as I looked at the depth chart, evaluated the roster for that 10 storylines, there's some really deep positions. They have some depth at like defensive end, offensive line. I never remember a Snyder program having at any position. It's really impressive. So they're doing some things right, but you got to own your state, particularly when it's a state like Kansas and there's not much to own. I mean, you're Matt Campbell's bitch right now. I mean, sorry. The dude is coming in with his Ohio accent and stealing all your players. It's got to stop. And if that belongs to Taylor or the coaches or the program, they got to figure it out, man. There's not enough talent in the state of Kansas to fully support one really good football program. But you got to keep the guys you can keep. You're not going to keep them all. I get it. Once in a while, a 5-star will pop up, and Miami and Tennessee and all these other sexy schools will come in and want them, and that's happened in the past. Oregon, okay. But Minnesota, Iowa State, come on. You can't let that happen. I'll accept even Oklahoma and Oklahoma State because for a lot of Kansas kids, that's a shorter drive. I get that. Oh, not Iowa State, man. Lock down your borders better. I don't know if that means less time on Twitter and more time on the phone. I'm not sure what that means. I just know it can't be happening. It can't go on. You don't have enough pieces of pie here to feed your own program. Quit letting people named Matt steal your pie.
Getting back to the end question there, is it Taylor? Is it more bodies in the recruiting staff? Is it the coaches can't close the deal? I mean, just remember a year ago, that was the first year that was when Chuck Lilly was hired. It was just Taylor before he came in, basically. So now they've added one, a person. I think that the answer to this question is more bodies in the recruiting staff.
I think it's all of it.
You need that.
But yeah.
I don't think it's really Taylor because Taylor's kind of the face. Taylor's the face of K-State football to recruits.
Right.
And he does a good job of communicating, with the potential players coming in. And everybody, coming into the program, they love him. They love Taylor. And I think he's a key part, at least right now, to the recruiting process for K-State. But I don't know how much of him being the face is in the analytical role of, hey, we should get this guy. I think Taylor's more of the, hey, I was told to talk to you. Yeah. They need more people to manage, I think. More people to scout, figure out who they want to go to. And then on the backside of that, it's probably some of the coaches probably can't close deals. Because I don't think that the style of play, especially offensively, that K-State wants to play, I don't know if it necessarily fits with a lot of what these recruits want to play as athletes.
In the modern era of college football coaching, you can't just be a coach. You have to have value in the recruiting realm. But it's also a teeter-totter. If you're a coordinator and you're really good at it, maybe you're more the on-campus closer type. But if you're a position coach and not being effective in recruiting, Maybe freshen up the resume. Again, run the business, man. Just run the business, and if you have to let people go, you have to. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's Taylor, the staff, the coaches. It's something, isn't it? It's got to be. There has to be a solution. So, I don't know. More bodies would help. More bodies, and maybe a few more coaches that are rooted with K-State and kind of get it. I know K-Staters tend to be, well, who's available that is K-Stater for every job? It's kind of a fault of K-Staters. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we can't have Brad Underwood? Well, then, okay, we'll just suck. Yeah, it's not the way it works in the real world. You go hire good people. I mean, Bill Snyder wasn't a K-Stater. End of story. And he became one. He invested himself in it. But he was William Jewell. Missouri kid, basically. But go find people that fit your culture and want to bleed for the purple. And I think they're doing a good job of that. But if it's not year 3 when your recruiting ticks up in your own home state, it better be year 4. You can't keep losing these battles. These have ramifications. Because those kids are the home kids that would be invested more than just anyone else. It's the way it works. I don't know. Boy, I complained a lot today. And Darla's still snoring. There it was. I hope that picked it up. Is that it?
I was actually thinking about this when you mentioned Bill Snyder. And did you see who tweeted that yesterday that said Scott Drew with the greatest rebuild?
That was Seth Davis.
Seth Davis. Go.
Are you freaking kidding me? Now, if he put the word basketball in there, I'll talk about it. Because you're like saying a football program is a stone-cut castle, and a basketball program is like building a house with 2x4s. You can throw that thing up pretty quickly, and it can be pretty cool. What I'm saying is you got 13 scholarships. In the matter of 2 years, you can completely rebuild your roster and go get some dudes. I mean, basically, one good basketball recruit can have the impact of, 7 football recruits? You have to get 7 good football players to equal that one basketball player in terms of scholarship count. So building a football program is prolonged. I mean, there's a reason why a George Mason or a Wichita State can pop up and get to a Final Four. But, I mean, you have to beat good teams to get there in basketball. And you can go find the guys and have the right magical combination. And even if you're a program that does it every 4 years, you can get good. What Scott Drew's done at Baylor is incredible. I mean, he took over a program that had a player murdered. I mean, it was a mess. The coach was cheating. Oh, what a mess. I get it. It was incredible. What he's done is incredible. But that's capable. That's realistic in the realm of basketball. But football, taking over a program that literally has no history other than 1934 winning a Big Six championship. Woo! I mean, very little history and almost no success, almost no winning, no culture, no tradition, no fan support, no facilities, no reason for players to go to the school. A far worse tradition than what Kansas has right now. Kansas has some tangible things. What Bill Snyder did at K-State was nothing short of miraculous. It will never be replicated again because they changed the rules. Now they have limited practices so much that you can't really do what Bill did. I mean, it was boot camp. It was permanent boot camp for those players. But he found guys that wanted to do it and earn it and make it happen, and that's why they're the foundation. Now there's no comparison. Seth Davis's needs to be drug checked. That's a basketball guy that looks around his neighborhood and thinks the nicest house in his neighborhood is the best house in town.
That's a dude who thinks that herbal supplements can cure cancer.
Shit. I hope they can.
That's an actual real thing. He claims his mom had some sort of, I don't know what you call it. Supplement, like it's fake. It's pseudoscience. And he keeps touting it. Or he at least did a few years ago. That's what my comeback would have been on Twitter.
Well, I'm not going to fault him for that. We all need hope. Thanks for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. That was a good addition right there.
Thank you.
That was good. Darla was not impressed. We'll talk to you next week, and I'll be heavily caffeinated again in 7 days. Actually, we're going to do it earlier because we're going to preview the Big 12 tournament. We will have this podcast earlier next week so that we can talk about K-State's 10-game march to the national title and right into history. And Seth Davis will have to say, that's the greatest job of coaching ever done at Kansas State University.
PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.